Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings insights, perspectives, and our always thoughtful Democratic guests. Today we're joined by Cindy Chavez, a candidate in the special election for the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. Cindy, welcome to Democratic Television.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So you're running for the Board of Supervisors. There's a vacancy now, very short timeline. Let's talk about that. But before then, what is the district that encompasses this special board race? It's mostly San Jose, I understand.
It's all of San Jose. So in Santa Clara County, there are 5 members of the Board of Supervisors, and each of them have a district. And this district is really in downtown, to just slightly out to southeast San Jose, and then east San Jose is the district.
Okay, so that's an interesting and very important constituency to have strong representation.
Yeah, it is, and it's a very needy part of the district, and it's important to remember that what the Board of Supervisors is responsible for is everything from the county hospital and the health system to foster care to programs for children to the jails and the courthouses. So it's really, in some ways, people talk about it being the safety net of the community, and I also think of it as being the foundation for the county.
Well, you've lived in this area for a long time. You went to San Jose State University, I understand.
I did, lived on campus.
And that was at least 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, right. I started there in 1982.
Okay. So you really know the district both by living it and, frankly, serving a large part of it as a council member.
That's true, and being an activist in our community for a very long time, and I loved being at San Jose State. It was a great time to be there. I met some incredible people who got me very excited about public service, which is what really geared me toward both working for elected officials and then running for office myself.
So what are the major issues that you hear? I know that you're out there campaigning and you're talking to folks all the time. What are people concerned about?
You know, the thing that really is on the top of everybody's agenda is crime and public safety. And I think the reason for that is with all of the cuts that have happened in the city of San Jose, we've seen a pretty steep increase in crime. There's been an increase in burglaries of 71%. And I think most of us know someone who's had their house broken into or a car broken into. And so there's a big fear about what that portends for the future. A huge increase in graffiti. People can see it everywhere. And, you know, San Jose as a community used to follow the broken window theory, right? Which is you don't even leave a window broken because if you do, it invites graffiti, it invites old couches, it invites crime. And now it seems as though we're really fighting an uphill battle because our resources are so drained.
You know, it reminds me, I believe you ran for city council in part by inspiration isn't the right word. In fact, it's the opposite, but an attack on your home that you had.
Right. And, you know, there are a lot of people who I'm sure watching this program who think, oh, I could never run for office. And the truth of the matter is there are so many ways to serve, right? Boards, commissions, elected office. And I was one of those people who really liked being a volunteer. I thought that was the best I could offer to the community was to be volunteering. And in 1997, my husband and I bought our first home in downtown San Jose, and we'd been having problems for a while with the neighbor's house, and so we got involved in the neighborhood association. We tried to reach out to that neighbor, and ultimately that neighbor one night had a big party. There was a gang fight. That fight broke out into shooting, and a bullet came into our home. And that night, I remember being terrified, you know, and my husband saying, I called the police and don't turn on any lights. But the next morning, I got my activist hat back on and I said, okay, what has to change in this neighborhood? Because, you know, everybody who buys a house knows you have not a dime left.
Yeah.
So it's not like we could leave. So the criminals had to leave.
Well, that's an impressive and frightening motivation, but it's very real.
It was, and it really helped me understand something very important about public service. And that is that, you know, at that moment, I remember thinking, so my home isn't safe. So I need to do something about it. And what's going on with the school down the street? And what's happening with the hospital up the street? that we tend to think about the world from our front porch. But what I learned really quickly is that neighborhoods all over this community had the same hopes and aspirations. Clean, safe neighborhoods, great schools, and a community filled with jobs and opportunity. And that ultimately helped me when I ran for office as a council member. I ran with a lot of community support, but I governed with it too, meaning that we made big changes to get the public involved. For the first time ever, we used redevelopment money to help local neighborhoods come up with their priorities and then spend money in their neighborhoods in a way they thought was appropriate. And I was really honored to lead it, but what the inspiration for that was recognizing that governance really takes many hands, not just the person who pushes the button to vote, but getting people enthusiastic, feeling fired up, ready to change their communities, and then taking advantage of that in a really, taking advantage of that opportunity to make our communities safer and better.
So you come from a community organizer background. You were active, bringing folks together on many issues, the causes you talked about, your work in the labor movement, working for nonprofits. Um, how was that helpful for you when you were on the city council? And tell us a little bit more about that background.
Well, so I think, one thing that happened when I got to the city that I was really surprised at is there were a lot of people there who said, oh, we've got this challenge or that challenge. And they sort of looked at the role of the council as go tell the public what we're doing. And my feeling was that the experts needed to have interface with the public. And the reason is that it's very easy to become anonymous and to not understand how your decisions and how your conduct impact the public. And so one of the things I worked very hard with my colleagues on the council and the mayor at the time was making sure that department heads and leaders in these departments were out in the public. So if you were in the planning department, you were out having conversations with people about what was happening in their community. If you were in the police department, that you were really taking a leadership role in community policing. And I think we have to get back to that both in the city of San Jose, but the county is even bigger and has even more resources. And people should know what the county can and can't do in their neighborhoods. And that should happen in their lifetime. Right? Like you shouldn't have to age before, not too many birthdays before you get answers.
And I know you're being facetious because you would like it now. Is technology a tool that you see as being useful in District 2 and in communicating with residents?
Right. When I was on the city council, one of the things that we did was when we built the new city hall, was put cameras even in the committee rooms because a lot of decisions and discussions happen in committees, not so much at council meetings. And really, it allows the public to watch those meetings live. And what I'd like to see the county do is be able to get real-time input from people who are watching, right? So that you can tweet or you can shoot an email and a staff person or the elected official can be reading that as you're having the discussion. When I was on the city council, people started to do that right toward the end of my time where, we'd have our emails up and we'd have a discussion going on and you'd have a neighborhood leader watching it. I got all kinds of funny feedback, including not to wear too much black, which of course I'm doing today, and to speak into that microphone better. So all of that was, I think, a part of people really getting excited about the change they could make in their own neighborhoods.
So you would see doing something like that with the county meetings, the committee meetings, and getting input.
So the county, under the current leadership there, I think it was actually Ken Yeager put their meetings are all online now too, and they have committee meetings you can watch. But what I'd like to do is make sure that interactive piece gets involved because not everybody can drive down to the county building, and frankly, some of those meetings are during the day. I also think some of the big meetings should be held at night when people can actually attend them.
Yeah. Now your district, it sounds people could drive down, but the county does stretch down to Gilroy up to Palo Alto, and people have issues everywhere.
Well, and the other thing is that, as we think about climate change, we have to think about every time we get into our cars, is this the right time to do it? And so for some people, it may be as simple as maybe they decide that day they don't want to, or they don't have a car, or so we want to eliminate barriers to community engagement and civic engagement in real and meaningful ways and think about these big issues like climate change.
That sounds like a great thing to do. And it can happen. So you said that there are issues, you described issues that you faced as a council member. You're going to be representing a lot of that same area, but at a different level. So how do you deal with, for instance, crime as a member of the Board of Supervisors?
So at the board, there's the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department patrols unincorporated areas and also has contracts for smaller cities to patrol them. I think what needs to happen is right now, all of the chiefs do a very good job of meeting and talking with each other, but we need to look more concretely at how there's a continuous smooth flow of resources between cities, number one. And number two, when San Jose got less safe because they had less police officers and less resources, that impacted the entire county. And so my belief is that the county needs to be the convener of all of the different safety departments and really engage them so that we understand what happens when one community cuts. What does that mean for another community? And I think every city around the border of San Jose has suffered from San Jose's cuts. And I think we can look at that for fire and particularly for fire services as well.
I remember when you were on the city council, you expressed concerns that the rest of the city council didn't really understand what was going on in the downtown area. What did you do to try to remedy that?
Well, one thing is we spent a lot of time talking to my colleagues, and I would say that we started to see changes almost as soon as we stopped investing in young people
Mm,
with after school programming. So there's one issue relative to police. There's another entirely important issue relative to making sure that kids stay in school, that they have the support they need to succeed, because the long-term way to deal with crime is making sure that people have an education and
mm,
and that kids are active after school between the time that they're out of school and their parents get home, because that's when we see an influx in activity in youth crime, and because there's no one to be with them. So part of it is really rethinking how we approach public safety. And it is something the city of San Jose did brilliantly for a long time, but they're not doing it that way anymore. And that really requires the county and other cities to get engaged and for everybody to step up our game.
mm. I understand you also had a reputation as you could be found out at night in a patrol car, maybe on a garbage truck or in a fire truck.
Yeah, I did a lot of ride-alongs, and I did that because safety was such an issue for people in the downtown that I really wanted to be able to explain both what we were doing well and understand what we could improve. And so, we'd have big things like Mardi Gras and other challenges in the downtown, and I really wanted to be out there because I wanted to be able to respond to my constituents the next day when they called or complained, or even that night. And I was joking around with one of my neighbors about this because she was out on the street because she heard a bunch of noise
Mm.
one of the nights of Mardi Gras, and I was telling her, get back in. And she said, well, what are you doing out here? And I said, well, I'm with the police department. I'm in better hands than you are. Get it back in your building. But no, I think it's a great way to learn. And the other thing is, I think we assume a lot about people's jobs that you don't know until you've seen it from their place.
Got it. We're going to take a little break. When we come back, more from Cindy Chavez. Welcome back to Democratic TV and our guest, Cindy Chavez. Cindy, you're running for the Board of Supervisors in a special race. Voters will be making decisions fairly soon. What are you finding are the biggest issues out there? I've got to think it's crime. I mean, people are afraid now.
Well, absolutely. And I know we talked a little bit about crime, but I think you're right. It's so prevalent that that yes, it's the number one issue. And let me just make a couple points about it. One is that, you know, all of the cities sign memorandums of understanding with each other about what's called mutual aid. So, for example, when we had the very large Santana Row fire, you had, fire departments from all over helping, and then other fire departments cover broader areas in order to protect those areas in case you have 2 or 3 big incidences. The other thing is you need to still make sure that even though you have one big, large event, that ambulances can get to other places, and that police officers, that their areas are still covered, because again, you could have multiple events happening at the same time, and you need to make sure that the whole community is protected and safe. And it's probably the one most important thing that government does is create an environment that is safe, that people feel secure in, that they feel like their families can thrive in. So one of the things I'd like to take a look at is making sure that when cities make dramatic changes to their public safety infrastructure or their resources or what they're going to invest, that there are discussions that happen with all of the cities and the county so that no area bears the burden of one community making a decision that really impacts the safety of the whole. And I think it's really important to understand that we don't want police and fire services to be bound by boundaries that fires and criminals aren't, right? They don't know what boundaries are. They go where they can enrich themselves or where they can victimize people or, and fires happen all over our community. So I think we need to make sure that we're able to work collaboratively together and that we really, in a meaningful way, understand what resources are going to be available for all of us. The second big area is that, and I talked a little bit about this before, but that is that the city of San Jose and other communities have like gang task forces and used to have task forces that worked very specifically on crimes that we saw rising. And I think this is an opportunity again for the county to marshal resources with probation, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, with even our correction officers. We've got some really savvy, smart people just waiting to be asked for how we can make improvements.
So you talked about resources in the context of changes, which is generally reductions in service, are the budgets of our jurisdictions. The county budget is huge, but the context is there's so much stuff that the county does. So a few questions. How do you deal with getting a handle on the budget? How do you think you'll be able to work with Sacramento to make sure they understand the priorities of Santa Clara County?
Well, one of the reasons that I decided to run, and I had not planned on running for office again, but one of the reasons I decided to run is we are already into a term. The budget for the county of Santa Clara is $4.2 billion. It has approximately 15,000 employees and manages the health and hospital system, the public health and hospital system for our community. And I think that means that you need to be able to hit the ground running. In the past, elections have been times for people to get briefed and to learn, but the election cycle is so constrained that it really requires somebody who can hit the ground running. When I worked on the city of San Jose's budget, that was a $2 billion budget, plus the redevelopment agency, plus I served as the chair of the Valley Transportation Authority. So I do understand how budgets work and how they fit together. As it relates to our delegation, we are really blessed that many, many leaders in our delegation served at a local government level before they ran for higher office. So they have a very keen understanding of what our needs are, especially as we go through the process of the Affordable Health Care Act implementation and the governor's realignment plan that really moves a number of services to a local level. I'm really fortunate to have the support of our entire delegation, our senators, Jim Bell and Jerry Hill and I'm sorry I'm blanking, but just the whole delegation. In fact, I just received the support of the Lieutenant Governor, Gavin Newsom. And I think what that means is that we have an opportunity to make our case at a state level. At a federal level, I, of course, enjoy the support of Congressmember Mike Honda and others. And so I do think that, and again, they've all served at a local level.
Yeah.
Right? So this is a big opportunity for Santa Clara County.
So you still have to go door to door and speak with real voters. What's it like campaigning in this compressed time frame?
Well, it's the part of the campaign I love the most.
Oh.
And the reason is, people want someone to listen. They want to know government is paying attention and that action will actually happen. And so what I've been able to do is have conversations with people on the doors and on phones. And for the most part, I've been able to talk about what we can accomplish based on what I've learned already serving in public office, right? So so far it's been great.
So you get out and talk to folks, you go to events, you have candidates forums with your colleagues, shall we say, that others that are hoping to make it to the Board of Supervisors.
Yes, and actually I like the forums the best because I think it gives the voter an opportunity to really assess who they would like to support and why.
So again, I don't know that people really get the services that you provide, and I know you've talked about health and safety, but just in terms of the county hospitals, the budget there, um, I don't know, it's got to be a billion, couple billion.
The health and hospital system is almost $2 billion. And if you think about that, and for many people who are watching this program, that's the Valley Medical Center, right? And it's got an incredible burn unit. It's got a spinal unit. It's got, if you are in a car accident, you want to go to Valley Medical Center. We've got some of the finest doctors and nurses and other support services literally in the country, let alone in this county. That hospital system is so critical because as affordable health care comes online, we don't know how affordable the plans are going to be. We have a lot of people who are not going to be covered through the Affordable Health Care Act. And even though I'm really proud of the president's leadership on and taking us in this direction, it's going to take us a while to really integrate in all of the clinics and all of that into this new system. There's also an opportunity because we need to make sure that we have these high level of services so that if there are emergencies that or pandemics or anything like that, that we don't lose more medical beds, because we've actually lost quite a few hospital beds through mergers over the last few years. And the Affordable Health Care Act is really driving people to use clinics, which I understand, to keep a lot less people out of the hospital because it's so expensive keeping people out. And at the same time, we need those hospital beds for emergencies. You know, when you have big incidences, and making sure that system stays healthy through this whole process is going to be, you know, a very high priority for me. And I hope any person who wins the election.
Well, one issue that came up when you were on the council is the downtown San Jose Medical Center. That is no longer there, but I think through your actions, that land is still available, and I think there's some promising projects.
What happened was, and again, this was a neighborhood-led effort, that there was a downtown hospital coalition, and that coalition came to me and said, we cannot be without this hospital. We could not make the private company stay there, but what we did do was preserve the land. The county now owns the land, and there's a downtown clinic that just opened up that's being run by the Gardner Health Center, and really through the efforts of a lot of people, there's still care being provided in downtown San Jose.
So you are in the special election. People are enthusiastic about you. What do people do if they want to get involved in your campaign? Do you have a website?
Yes, we do. It's Cindy Chavez for Supervisor. .com, and I would just encourage people to go on the website. It's also a great way to learn about the candidates, and I'm sure the other candidates have websites as well. And the thing I would say is that, first I would just say to everybody watching, I would love your vote of confidence, your vote in what we can do together. Because when you take a vote for me, it's not for me, it's for all of us, right? It's us making sure that government responds to the public in a way that's respectful and honors the fact that it's our tax dollars that get spent there. But if you'd like to get involved beyond voting, just go to that website and there's a way to volunteer.
So you will hopefully get elected soon. What will your first priority be on the Board of Supervisors? What do you want to tackle first, maybe besides getting to know your colleagues as colleagues?
I think that one of the most important opportunities for the Board of Supervisors is going to be really this budget. And remember that even though the county has 5 districts, the district that has the highest need is really District 2, and that's the district I'm running for. And so part of it is really going to be able to understand what's being spent there now, are those dollars being spent efficiently and effectively, and how can we make sure that the dollars that we're spending really reflect our values, our priorities. And that really is public safety. I think the healthcare system, and making sure that realignment happens in a way that contributes both to the health and vitality of that budget, along with making sure that as realignment occurs, that it happens in a way that continues to make our community safe.
On the Board of Supervisors, District 2 will be much larger than your former City Council district. Do you see your ability to organize neighborhoods as a supervisor? Is that something that's done?
Yes, and I would say this too, that I think that supervisors are not as present at neighborhoods as city council members are, and that's something I'd really like to change. Because I think that the only way you serve people is to really hear them and then to engage people, right? Because we did great things when I was on the council. We built affordable housing. We built more parks than had ever been built in any time frame. We got community centers and libraries built, and we did all of that in partnership with neighborhood leaders. I couldn't have done any of that alone, and I consider myself an accomplished elected official. I can point to things and say, I did that, but the truth of the matter is we did it. And I think that kind of governance is really what's going to make this community the best place to raise a family, to grow a business and to age with dignity and grace. I think we can do that in Santa Clara County. And in fact, the truth is, if we can't do it here, where can it be done? Right? And that's really what I'm most excited about running, to make those changes.
Now we have about a minute left. How do you see working with the schools? Because the schools system isn't part of county government, and yet education has always been important to you and educating people well.
No matter what elected office you're in, if you don't consider yourself a champion for education, you shouldn't be in office. And I think one of the big opportunities is going to be looking at early learning, early childhood education, and making sure that children are ready to learn by kindergarten, and that's everybody's responsibility.
So, just one last chance for you to get out your website.
It's Cindy Chavez for supervisor.com, and I would be honored if you would visit the website.
Well, that sounds like something that everybody ought to do. Congratulations on your race, and we wish you the best.
Thank you for letting me join you.
Thanks for watching Democratic Television. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website, sccdp.org, and we hope to see you on the campaign trail. Help make a difference.